Retired Master Sergeant Raymond Ray Holloway sat quietly in the corner booth of Murphy's Diner, sipping his black coffee and reading the morning newspaper. He was a man of routine, the kind who found peace in order. For the past 5 years, every Tuesday morning at precisely 9:30, Ray had claimed that same booth, the one with a clear view of the parking lot and the exit. Old habits from 30 years in the Army never truly died. Murphy's was a small-town diner, family-owned for 3 generations. The walls were lined with faded photographs of local history, among them, pictures of soldiers who had once worn the uniform. Few realized that one of those faces, a young man in desert camouflage, was the same quiet old veteran who now read the paper in silence. Ray's silver hair was always neatly combed, his clothes simple and clean, and a small American flag pin rested on his jacket, so subtle most people never noticed it. Ray had enlisted in 1973, just months after turning 18. Over 3 decades, he served everywhere from the Cold War outposts of Germany to the deserts of Iraq and Afghanistan. The Army had shaped him, transforming a scared boy from Ohio into a master sergeant who trained generations of young soldiers. But what made him proudest wasn't any medal or ribbon. It was his son, Michael, who'd followed in his footsteps. Michael had graduated from West Point, served with distinction, and become an Army officer, the kind of leader Ray had always admired. But war changes people in ways no one sees. Ray came home with a purple heart and a limp that ached in the rain. Michael returned with invisible wounds, the kind that haunted his sleep and made him scan every room for exits. 3 years ago, he'd moved back home and taken a post at the local recruiting office. Father and son had grown close again, 2 soldiers finding peace in routine and quiet mornings. That peace ended the day Jake Thunder Morrison walked into Murphy's. Thunder was the president of the Iron Wolves Motorcycle Club, a gang that had been terrorizing the town for months. At 6'4", nearly 300 pounds, with arms covered in tattoos that told stories of violence, Thunder wasn't just big, he was used to being feared. He'd claimed Murphy's as his territory, showing up every week to the same booth Ray occupied. The first week, Ray had quietly moved without complaint. The second week, he did the same. But this Tuesday, something in him had changed. This morning, Ray decided he'd had enough. When Thunder approached with his usual swagger and demanded, "Move it, old man, this is my table," Ray calmly looked up from his newspaper and said, "I've been sitting here every Tuesday for 5 years. You can find another one." The biker's grin vanished. Murmurs spread through the diner. Then came the sound, a single, sharp slap that echoed like a gunshot. Thunder's hand struck Ray's cheek hard enough to knock his reading glasses to the floor. The diner went silent. Every eye turned toward them. Ray's cheek burned, but he didn't rise. He didn't shout. He simply picked up his glasses, checked them for cracks, and placed them back on. The years in uniform had taught him the power of silence, of control. In that moment, he wasn't just an old man in a diner. He was every soldier who'd ever faced down arrogance without losing his dignity. Ray reached into his pocket, pulled out his phone, and made a call. Thunder laughed, assuming the old man was calling the police. But Ray wasn't calling the cops. He was calling his son. He said just one thing, "Michael. I'm at Murphy's. Could you come by?" No anger. No fear. Just quiet resolve. Thunder stayed and made a show of himself, ordering the most expensive meal and boasting to the room about teaching the old fool some respect. But Ray didn't rise to it. He sat near the window, ordered another cup of coffee, and waited. 11 minutes later, the sound of engines filled the parking lot, not motorcycles, but military vehicles. A convoy rolled in, 3 official Army trucks, followed by a pickup. From the lead vehicle stepped Lieutenant Colonel Michael Holloway, his new silver oak leaves glinting in the morning light. Behind him came 12 uniformed soldiers, all veterans of Iraq and Afghanistan, all men and women Michael had trained personally. They'd been in the middle of a ceremony when his father called, and the moment they heard the tone in his voice, they insisted on coming. The soldiers formed up in the parking lot with textbook precision. Boots aligned, shoulders squared, an image of discipline and unity. As they entered the diner, conversation stopped. Thunder's smirk faded as he realized this was no local law enforcement. These were soldiers, professionals who'd seen real combat. Michael approached his father first, noticed the mark on his cheek, and quietly asked if he was okay. Ray nodded toward the booth where Thunder sat. Michael turned, his expression calm but firm, and addressed the biker. "Sir," he said evenly, "we need to talk." "Outside." Thunder hesitated, then followed them into the parking lot. 7 minutes later, he returned, pale, humbled, and shaken. He approached Ray, voice trembling, and said, "Sir, I'm sorry. I was wrong." Ray looked up, his gaze steady. "Son," he said quietly, "respect isn't something you take. It's something you earn." Thunder nodded, left a $20 bill on the table for Ray's coffee, and walked out. He and the Iron Wolves were never seen in town again. Michael stayed, joining his father at the window table. As they spoke, Ray noticed his son's new insignia and smiled proudly. Around them, soldiers stood silently, a protective circle of respect. Mrs. Murphy refused payment for their meal, saying it was the least she could do for a man who'd served his country with such honor. Word spread quickly through town. But the story wasn't told as a fight, it was told as a lesson in dignity. The mayor sent Ray a letter declaring him Citizen of the Year. The local paper ran a front-page story about respect for veterans. The Iron Wolves left town for good. And every Tuesday morning after that, Michael joined his father for coffee. The corner booth became known as the Veterans Table. Other servicemen began to stop by, to shake his hand, to share stories, to simply sit with someone who understood. Murphy's Diner became more than a restaurant. It became a place of remembrance, a reminder that true strength doesn't come from intimidation or anger, but from calm, unshakable dignity. Because sometimes the greatest weapon a soldier ever carries isn't a rifle or a medal. It's the respect he's earned through a lifetime of courage and quiet honor.